Good morning, everybody. I'm Larry Weissoon. If you enjoy real-world hunting and fishing talk, you're really going to enjoy listening to my good friend, Luke Clayton, and his guest for the next hour.
This is David Fox, and welcome to Outdoors with Luke Clayton and Friends. Luke has been a recognized outdoors writer for the past 3 decades and writes for a host of outdoor publications. Luke pens a weekly newspaper outdoors column that appears in over 40 Texas newspapers. Luke is on the pro staff of Pyramyd Air, your one-stop shop for everything air gun related. Smokin Tex electric smokers and AGM Global Vision, maker of an awesome line of thermal hunting scopes and spotters. Feel free to contact Luke through his website, catfishradio.org. Now let's join Luke and his guests for this week's show.
Well, guys, thank you a lot for that nice introduction. And friends, you're about to hear about an hour of good outdoor, down-home outdoor talk. And Mr. Larry Weissoon is with us, right back from up in British Columbia on a moose hunt. So he's got all kind of fun stuff to talk about, don't you, Larry?
Look, you know what, it really was. It's great to be back home. And, of course, we're brought to everybody by DSC, Conservation Education and Hunter Advocacy, Hornady, accurate, deadly, dependable, stealth vision, makers of some of the finest scopes and binoculars and spotting scopes ever made on the face of the earth. VINEYARDMAX, which produces the deer bait and the feeders that we use a lot of times, and of course also the knives that I designed, but also Mossberg. You know, they make some of the finest rifles you can imagine, particularly for the price. They're made here in Texas, like VINEYARDMAX and Stealth Vision and a bunch of other great people that we work with. And you're right, I just got back not too very long ago. You know, we've been telling people, sooner or later we tell them about my moose adventure up in British Columbia. And I was up there with 3 other guys. Jeff Johnson, who's a writer and a dear friend from there in Oklahoma that writes for the Field Ethos magazine and website, which is kind of owned by Donald Trump Jr. And then also with John McClellan, who is with the marketing manager for Mossberg, and Bill Brown, who is a new product manager for Mossberg. So had an opportunity to get up there, found out that Mossberg is going to be introducing a 20-inch Patriot rifle, and like I've been asking for a while, that here for too very long. But the moose hunt was with Love Brothers and Lee, which has been in the outfit business for many, many years, up in about 180 miles north of Smithers, which puts it about just east of Juneau, Alaska, kind of when you look at it. Mm-hmm. Fabulous area, very, very remote. Flew in on a float plane to this lake, and we were there for 10 total days when it was all said and done of hunting every day. Watched it snow every day, cold, nasty, unbelievably beautiful as far as I was concerned, and had just an absolute blast. That area has got some really nice moose in it, but to be very open about everything, we ended up taking 2 moose. Jeff Johnson took a moose that they called in from the top of a mountain about a mile and a half away, and he shot it right at water's edge with a 375 Ruger Hornady ammo and one of those Mossberg Patriot rifles. And then Bill Brown, they called in a moose, but he wouldn't come all the way down, so they went up and shot him, and he was using the new rifle I was talking about, the new 20-inch barrel that they're coming out with. Absolutely great time with those guys. John and I spent a lot of time with our guide. We would go to different areas on a little boat, and call, and you know, it's just one of those times where 2 guys were really lucky about seeing moose, and 2 guys, John and me being the other 2 guys, really not that lucky about seeing moose. What we did see was lots and lots of grizzly bear. Actually, when it's all said and done, I saw more grizzlies, almost twice as many grizzlies as I did moose. Then, of course, black bear, and then Rocky Mountain goats were up in the very tops of the mountains that we were glassing, and had a little time to fish. It was an absolutely fantastic time. And the 2 guys that took the moose hunt there brought back every bit of meat that they could, and so we're going to get to share a little bit later on when everything gets shipped down this way. But what a great adventure. To put it all in just in a few words, what a great adventure.
That's that up in that wild country, it's just a different feeling. I mean, it's rejuvenating would be a good way to put it, wouldn't it? I've never spent that long up there, but I've up in, the northern part of Canada, I've spent like a week,
Right.
And I don't know. You come back refreshed. You've been you're away from traffic. You're away from basically telephones and computers and the way people used to live. That used to be a way of life for everyone back in the day, wasn't it? I can imagine. We'd have to give up some of our conveniences, that's for sure. But by golly, it's worth it. I don't know if I would want to go. I would imagine in another month or so that country's going to get kind of icy, But it's for putting things in perspective. It's nice to be here.
It really
Texas,
does.
Yeah.
It really does. The interesting thing was we're staying in little cabins. And they were little log cabins, so it's wood stove. You got to chop all your own wood. We didn't have to, but we did. And keep the fires going, whenever you could throughout the day, and live in the sleeping bags. And like you mentioned, no electricity of any kind. So, didn't really know while we're up there what's going on in the world, had very little communication with the outside world other than the outfitter, because of the safety factor has got some ways of, with different radio type systems and with satellite phones and all that kind of thing, just to be sure that, the float planes are going to come in and pick you up. And, that's one of the things about going up north. When we first flew from Vancouver into Smithers, they flew us all the way almost to the airport, but there was so much fog you couldn't land. They flew us back into Vancouver. About 3 hours later, we got back on a commercial flight, same flight really, and they flew us into Smithers. And then, of course, when you're up there, we had days where it was raining, sleeting, snowing so hard that you couldn't see any across the lake, or some instances even 200 yards kind of thing. And that always adds to the adventure. And when I left home, I told my wife, I said, well, I'll be home on the such and such a day, with the caveat at the end of it, weather permitting, because up there you're totally at the mercy of the weather. And even though you really want to get out and you got flights coming home and all that, there's really no guarantee that they can come get you when they need to, because they got to keep in mind too the safety of not just the pilot, but getting people in and out as well too. So to me, anytime anybody goes on an adventure up there in that far north country, I always want to remind people back home, saying, well, I'll be home on such and such a day, weather permitting.
Yeah, that's true. I've never been up there in this time of the year. It's always been up fishing in the summer. And I would imagine even there in the middle of the summer, the weather's probably more stable, right? You probably wouldn't have to worry about, a lot of ice and snow in, say, June or July, would you?
Well, no, not, but you can have snowstorms up in that part of the country. And a lot of times, too, and like in the area that we were in, it was fog was a big deal, because those valleys, just for whatever reason, I guess because of the time of the year or whatever. But I know I've seen that same thing up there in the springtime hunting, spring bear and things like that, where the fog would get so thick that there was no way that you could fly. But, you buy a fishing license, and the lake we were on was not huge, but it has supposedly had some really good rainbow trout fishing. Now, we hunted because we were having a hard time finding a moose, John and I, and because of that, I didn't get to fish very much. But we had one day there where I kind of got up, just kind of fished right there in front of the cabin, and we were able to catch some rainbow trout, and oh my God, were they good to eat!
You bet. That's something farther east in Canada. The rainbow trout kind of surprised me that there would be trout there. I don't know why, just lack of knowledge on my part, really. But on over into Saskatchewan and all that up in the north, I've never fished a lake with rainbows. I haven't. I guess there are some, but it's interesting.
Well, we were told that, they of course, this camp's been there since the 1960s.
Mm-hmm.
So, and Ron Fleming and his wife, Brenda Nelson, who run this operation, they've been there for a long, long time. And I asked them, had a great conversations with them about all the things that they do and things they're involved in. But also they said, basically, that's the fish that's there. There's some smaller, bait type fish, but that's just the way it is sometimes. I was hoping we would get into an area where there'd be some grayling as well too, because I love fishing for them.
Or lake trout maybe,
Yeah, but apparently in that particular area, they said that the only fish that they ever caught and ever had seen were rainbows. And so,
nothing wrong with a rainbow. They're beautiful.
No.
Well, Larry, I'm glad you made it back, and then we're gonna. About the time our friends are listening to this, we will be with our friends, David and Edgar Cotton, and we'll be over there in Kaufman County, not too far from where I live, and see what's going on. They said, showed me some pictures on their trail cameras of some really good bucks. I think the antler development is good. I've seen some pretty nice, nothing big around my house here where I live, but I hunt a couple of places within a 1.5 mile and then down the road with my buddy Kenneth, and seen some decent bucks, but not the big boys. They're hanging back in the brush right now, but it won't be long. They'll be moving, I bet you.
Yeah, usually that part of your part of the state, generally rattled up bucks that third and fourth week of October, what we're into, and even the first week of November. So we're going to try to do a little bit of rattling there, and then put some of those rifles to good use and all those other kind of things that we have. And then too, you and I may do an extra recording while we're there, because I'm going to Finland for a week to hunt white-tailed deer over in Europe in just about time you and I finish that hunt. So we've got a lot of great adventures coming up here.
Oh, we do. I want to mention something. You're talking about the Mossbergs, and you were with the Mossberg folks, some of them up in Canada. Friends, Mossberg makes also shotguns. They've made, but if you're thinking about the old pump action shotguns from 50 years ago, like I grew up shooting, they make a Gold Reserve over and under. I think, Larry, that they're through Mossberg in Turkey, I believe.
They are made in Turkey.
These guns, I tell you what, they come with color coded chokes. If you've been around shotguns much, you remember you look at the end of the choke and one little notch is full, two notches. You don't have to worry about they're color coded. Once you know blue is whatever choke, it's good. Those guns, and I've had other people look at mine, Larry. They are they're not, I don't guess you would say custom guns, but the walnut, the stocks are beautiful. That if you would like a really nice over and under, do take a look at that Gold Reserve Mossberg, because they cost about, I don't know, give or take $1,000, maybe a little less if you could catch them, but that's about what they cost, not $2,500 or $3,000, like some, but exactly. I really believe they're comparable with any. Functional and everything else. I mean, I'll keep this one the rest of my life, I'm sure.
Well, you're exactly right. They also have the silver, I can't even say it's Silver Reserve, but I've got it in a 410 over and under that I absolutely dearly love. So, and you're right. The wood on these is fantastic. It's Turkish walnut, and the finish that they do, and I've patterned numerous of those chokes, and they're exactly on where they're supposed to be as well too. So
you bet.
You're right.
I just want to mention that one because it's that time, and we'll be doing a bunch of waterfowl. I like to hunt ducks and geese too. I've hunted ducks so much right here by my house. It's some of the best duck hunting that I've ever been on. But up in the Panhandle, Full Throttle Outdoors, Jacob, he's going to be with us a lot, talking about that and the cranes and the goose hunting. It's not what it used to be down on the Texas coast. It's almost, honestly, it's nil down there and around the Katy Prairie and all that because of development. But, Larry, they're telling me that I've kept us going too long. We're out of time, buddy.
Yeah, well, we'll see everybody around the campfire. We'll see everybody at the DSC convention in January. They're in Atlanta, Georgia, that can get there.
You betcha. Folks, this segment is made possible by Ultrimatic Feeders. Go online to ultrimaticfeeders.com and check out the most awesome line of game feeders in the world. I've been using these things for 15 years, and I've got one that's been in the woods about 10 or 11 years. I forget exactly how long. Check them out, ultimaticfeeders.com. Folks, I want to tell you about an awesome destination down at Lake Tawakoni. It's Wind Point Park. If you love the outdoors, if you like camping in an area, I bet I saw 60 deer. I was in there recently touring the place, went fishing down there. It's some awesome fishing, camping, long-term RV rentals overnight. There's some beautiful cabins, some bigger cabins and littler ones right there by fishing. You can walk out the door and fish at some of those places. But the place is neat as a pin. It's been around for 10 years. Wind Point Park, if you haven't been down there in the last 10 years, it's all remodeled and just beautiful. So check it out online. I think the website is windpointparktx.com. Of course, you can just Google Wind Point Park, Tawakoni, and pull it up. But I want you to know about it. You're going to be hearing old Luke talk about the fishing down there a lot. I've already done some bank fishing there, so you can catch a lot of blues, and you can also catch a ton of channel catfish along those rocks. Another thing I want to tell you about, VINEYARDMAX. The website is vineyardmax.net. They make an awesome line of game feeders, fish feeders. They're just an awesome product, but they also have a deer attractant. That's what I really want to tell you about. It's called VINEYARDMAX. It's made from dried, hammer-milled grape hulls and wheat bran, I think it is, or, ground-up wheat, and also some corn chops. So it's got stuff in it deer like, plus it's got that scent of grapes that we've used it. Larry and I have used it out in West Texas where a deer have never seen a grape and had them come in on it. So check that out, and the website again is vineyardmax.net. Folks, this segment is made possible by Smokin Tex electric smokers that I've been using a long, long time, CatfishPro catfishing baits and catfish supplies, Ultrimatic Feeders, and AGM Global Vision, maker of the spotters and thermal scopes that I hunt with. Well, friends, let's shift gears from some deer hunting talk to some waterfowl talk. Let's go up in the Texas Panhandle where all the good goose and crane hunting is taking place this year, and let's visit with Mr. Jacob Salmon. Now, Jacob runs Full Throttle Outdoors. The website is fullthrottlehunting.com, and they hunt ducks and geese and cranes, sandhill cranes up in the Panhandle, and pheasants. They have way to hunt a guy that does pheasant hunts with them too. Jacob, thank you, buddy, for enduring my lengthy intro, but there's a lot to talk about when we're talking about Full Throttle Outdoors, right?
Yes, sir. Appreciate you having me on again. I'm always looking forward to this.
Yes, and folks, throughout the season, we're gonna have Jacob give updates, telling us what's going on, when the snow geese start showing up, when the crane hunting. Just give us some hunting updates up there, and I want to connect you with him because he is our Panhandle waterfowl hunting connection. Jacob, so Full Throttle Outdoors, for folks that don't know about you, you've got just a basic lodge up there. Tell us where that's at, and I think it sleeps 10 or 12 people, right?
Yes, sir. We've got an old cotton gin that was retired way back when. It was built out into a cabin, and it's about 25 miles north of Lubbock, and we sleep 13.
Yeah, okay. And then so people can – that's one option. That's the option I like because it puts you right there close to where, I imagine the hunts are not going to be too far from there. But another one is motels. If you have a bunch of groups going out, you do start, people can lodge in nearby motels, right?
Yes, sir, that is correct. There in Lubbock or Plainview, whichever is preferred. But Lubbock's got plenty of options there right there in town.
Oh, yeah, there's plenty of places to stay. Crane hunting, I've done all the crane hunting I've done, well, with the exception of one time, has been up in the Texas Panhandle, And to me, that's just different. I've done some pass shooting. We were actually hunting a mesquite flat, if you will, between a playa lakes and about 300 or 400 acres of wheat. And I thought we didn't even use decoys on that hunt. This has been several years ago, Jacob, but we just it was almost like dove hunting in a way, except the birds, those cranes were very patternable. The route they took from water to food was known, and it was some of those things. I remember the first one I shot I bet he wasn't 25 feet above the top of those mesquite trees. So that's one way to hunt them. You also decoy them, don't you?
Yes, sir. Most of the time we're going to be decoying them. We're going to be setting up in waste grain or wheat fields and pulling them in with our decoys.
Yep,
getting them nice and tight for us.
You bet. Are cranes, in your opinion, sandhill cranes, are they more wary than geese, or does that vary according to how much pressure they've got?
It varies, but good rule of thumb is they're going to be the most wary we're going to come encounter with out there.
Yeah, that's kind of what I figured. Now, over the decoys, people go to great lengths on decoying. What kind of decoys do you use?
We run fully flocked full bodies. We have a mixture of two different kinds. Some are deceptions and some are SXs, which are pretty much your two main suppliers and makers of the crane decoys these days. Mm-hmm. And we run a pretty solid mix of them.
Yep. Well, let's stick with just a little bit longer with the sandhill cranes, because how does a typical hunt go? I mean, yeah, granted, if you're duck hunting, you're up, and a lot of the goose hunting, you're up real early, decoys out, but we'll get into geese in just a little bit. They're hunted a little bit differently up there in the Texas Panhandle than I remember back on the Texas coast. But the cranes, are you going to be there at first light and have your decoys out, or are those cranes going to come from, a distance into, say, a cornfield that you're hunting?
They'll come from a distance, but usually we're meeting customers there in a field about an hour before shooting light, 45 minutes to an hour before shooting light, and if they're wanting to help us get set up and brushed in and all that good stuff. And then we'll run around and get all the decoys set. We'll run some loads of brush in, brush the blinds in, and kind of go from there. By then it's about shooting light and we're ready to go.
Okay. And we're now about, this is something I don't know. Are the cranes on water at night?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, they're going to be on a roost pond somewhere.
Yes, sir. They're normally roost right on the edges of those playa lakes.
Okay, and then scouting is key on that, is big time. I know that. So you and your team of guides, you guys are out. Where they're roosting, and then I guess before hunt, you spend a lot of time. You have to spend a lot of time watching where they go, right?
Yes, sir. We have more road time, window shield time than anything. We're on the roads every day, and if I've got guys hunting, I've got other guys scouting and making sure we're prepared for the next morning, and that is the most important thing, being where they want to be and being hid right.
Right. So, and the cranes, the flocks, are you usually hunting large numbers of them, Jacob, or what's the flock's numbers like?
We can get into large groups, but we make our bread and butter off of fives and sixes. It seems like.
In other words, you'll have, say, 5 or 6 roosting in a certain area that
Roost-wise, there'll be
bunch.
Thousands.
Oh, okay.
But groups coming off the roost at a time, we like our 5s and 6s coming into the spread at one time.
I'm with you. So there might be 60 in all, but just in flights of 5 or 6 coming in, right?
Yes, sir.
And as I remember on the cranes, you can see them coming from a long way, can't you?
Oh, yeah. You see them a good couple minutes before they get anywhere near you.
Yeah, yep. Well, for friends, all of you listening, if you haven't hunted sandhill cranes, if you go out there with Full Throttle, Jacob and his team of guides, do consider at least one hunt for cranes. Now, I'm going to assume a lot more of our folks listening have hunted geese. I've hunted geese a whole bunch in years past, and I've been up in the Panhandle not nearly as much as I used to be up on the Texas coast, the Katy Prairie and places like that. But it's not happening down there, and people that are tuned in on waterfowl know that. There's so much development, and what used to be rice fields and all that is now development. So the Panhandle, the Texas Panhandle, and folks, if you're listening to this on a podcast after our great radio stations run it, Texas Panhandle up in that part of the world is now, in my opinion, in Texas, it's where the waterfowl are. Now, duck hunting can be good all over, but cranes and geese, it's the prime spot. Would you agree with that? I'm sure you would, because that's where you hunt, right, Jacob?
Yes, sir. I mean, like you said, once the Katy Prairie kind of became a shopping mall and strip malls and development, everything kind of shifted out west. It's always been good, but it's only gotten better over the years. It
has, because of the shift in the migration, the pattern. Excuse me, the patterns. Now, what are the first geese that are going to give us a timeline? Now, people are already, many have already booked hunts with you, and I will say this, folks, if you're contemplating a hunt, I'd get with Jacob early, as soon as possible. But are the speckled bellies the first to head up in that part of the country?
Yes, sir. We'll usually see our stacks first, and our lessers and our snow geese there towards the end, and our cranes are already showing up, and I'm likely our specks are starting to as well. I haven't seen too many yet, but here before too long they'll start trickling in.
Yep. Well, here we are at near the end of October, so the first goose hunting takes place about when? The first season opens the first Saturday of November this year. So it's coming up a week or so from now. So, and what can you expect early season? I mean, speckled bellies, I assume.
Speckled bellies, and we'll have some lessers too.
Lessers. I remember hunting on one occasion the graders up there that roosted. I'm not sure which town they were. They actually a city pond they roosted in, and we were in a cornfield probably, I think, 10 miles from there, and we got set up. It took about an hour after daylight, and those geese started showing up. But that type hunting, the lessers, there's tons of those lesser Canadas as the season progresses. I remember that, lots of those, right?
Yes, sir. We get them in there thick like mosquitoes, it seems like.
Yeah, that's so much, and I love to eat those things too. I know how to cook them. Well, Jacob, the thing, I guess folks can locate you. A good way to start is to go online, I think. I've been to the website fullthrotttlehunting.com, fullthrotttlehunting.com. Would you leave a number for folks that might want to give you a call?
Yes, sir. Give me a call at 214-263-4604. They can call or text that number anytime.
Okay, and folks, that was 214-263-4604. Well, I want to get you back, and I know you're going to get real, real busy starting in a week and then on through the season. But every couple of weeks or whatever, I want to get you on with us and let you give a little update and tell what's going on. Would you do that?
Absolutely, I'd love to.
Well, Jacob, thanks a lot for your time, buddy, and I imagine you need to do some windshield time, start looking for where you guys are going to be hunting next week. So we'll talk to you real soon.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me on.
Folks, let's talk a little outdoor cooking. Let me tell you about an electric smoker that I've been using for 15 years, I guess. Smokin Tex electric smokers. If you're tired of staying up all night keeping that wood fire burning when you're barbecuing, give Smokin Tex a try. They're made to last a lifetime. You can check them out at smokintex.com. That's SMOKINTEX.com. Well, friends, Mr. Larry Weissoon is going to tell you about the finest hunting optics that we have ever found.
Luke, these are called Stealth Vision. They come from Crockett, Texas. Dr. John McCall developed them. They're 34-millimeter tubes as opposed to the narrower tubes, so more light transmission. they have a little green light that comes on. That scope is leveled because that's when you want to pull the trigger. They have an optional lighted reticle as well too, and a whole lot of other products. And folks can learn more about them by going to stealthvision.com.
And for seasonings, anything to do with outdoor cooking, all kind of jerky seasonings, sausage seasonings, Butcher Packer Supply. That's butcherpackersupply.com. I think the website is butcher-packer.com. This segment here is brought to us by the Choctaw Hunting Lodge up in southeast Oklahoma, owned by the Choctaw Nation. Pyramyd Air, your one-stop shop for everything air gun related. Well, folks, we have had a bunch of hunting talk in today's show. We're about to have some more hunting talk with I think it's the official relative name is great nephew, Mr. Connor Crockett. He's my nephew's son. So, Connor, yeah, I think that's a great nephew, don't you?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Well, you are a great guy, folks. I'm going to tell you, I've known Connor, obviously, since he was a little boy. I was there when he went on some of his first deer hunts. And you look up outdoorsman in the dictionary, Connor Crockett's picture should be there. I'm telling you this. But what Connor does, he's got an outfit, Boone and Crockett. Okay, Boone was his first deer trailing dog, so Boone and Crockett, it fits pretty well together. Deer trailing dog. We're going to talk with Connor this time about trailing dogs. Say you've wounded a deer and you need a dog to track it down. That's what Connor does. Obviously, he can't do that all year round, but in the hunting season, he's in East Texas, hour and a half, couple hours east of Dallas, around Henderson, Texas is where he lives, and mostly in the eastern part of Texas, right, Connor, where you do this?
Correct, yes, sir.
Yeah. Well, as far as a dog training a dog, of course, I could spend an hour quizzing you and probably just scratch the surface. But is there any particular breed of dog that you choose to trail up deer?
Well, of course, everybody has their personal preference on what they would like to have. Me personally, my main dog that I run is a Lacey. He's actually the state dog of Texas. A lot of people don't know that, but it's actually the state breed. And he's a great dog. I kind of look at as on a hunting end of it. I look for a dog that's more athletic. These deer that we go after majority of them are still alive, whether they have a broke leg or they were shot far back.
Yep.
If that deer has not expired, then he still has life left in him. And as we all know, it's hard to stop a deer. They're extremely fast. They're quick, even when they're hurt. So I kind of look at a dog that is athletic, not one that's real big. There's several guys that use a bloodhound. I think those are great in the northern states. And a lot of the northern states, they require you to track on lead. So most of those tracks are old tracks, and I say old meaning 24 hours old. And that dog is moving slow. You're on a lead. You don't have the thickets that we do around here. You're kind of in the open country. So for me personally, I think every breed has it in them. Some, of course, a lot better than others. I like a dog that just has a high prey drive, a good build, that can get through the brush quick and kind of has a little grit to him. He's not scared of that deer if he's alive. He'll run in there and get in front of him, stop him. If he has to, kind of nip him on the back end to make him quit running, then that's what I look for. So breed wise, you have your Lacey, Catahoula, even just a cur dog. There's several different breeds. A little bit of hound, a little bit of a cur, something with a good nose, but also, quick on its feet, I guess is what I would like to say. That can get into these thickets and get these deer, stopped.
Well, let's think about maybe a little scenario. Say that I was bow hunting, or you don't have to. It could be a rifle, a bad rifle shot, a hit, a wound, whatever. But just say I was bow hunting, and well, a lot of shots take place the last 30 minutes of legal shooting time. In the evening. Say I hit one, and you're gonna, if you're an experienced hunter, you're probably gonna wait a bit before you look for blood, before you put any pressure on the deer. Hopefully it was a good shot, and you'll find him within 40, 50 yards. I mean, that's happened to me, and I'm sure many of our hunters that bow hunt, happened to all of us at some point. But you make a shot, and you kind of know in your in your mind when you release that arrow, was it good or not. You can pretty much determine just by what you saw. Well, or the way the deer reacted to the impact, Well, you get down, you give it some time, and that depends on with me. It's always dependent on daylight. I mean, I if I shoot late, I'll probably take up the trail a little bit earlier, and just so I can see the blood in the day. But you don't find blood, and you think, dadgummit, I think I hit that deer. I think I heard the impact on a, rib or something. What's the best thing to do? So if you have someone like yourself, Connor, that you can contact with a trailing dog, are you better just to stay off the trail and wait till the dog gets there?
So my advice on that situation, and of course everybody shoots the Ultrimatic now, so that helps us tremendously. So you say you shoot the deer, and sometimes those Ultramatics, they may hit the deer and deflect and go opposite way. I always like to tell the hunter, keep an eye on your arrow. Is he stuck in the deer? Did you get a pass through? Did it do something crazy? Try and really watch that arrow. So you get down. Number one, kind of what you said, most hunters give it time. Number one thing I can push, and I will push day after day, is patience. Patient. But yes, if you get down and you find no blood, or you find minimum amount of blood and you think it's a good shot, but you're not sure, then absolutely stay off of that blood trail. The worst thing that you can do, in my opinion, and many trackers' opinion, is to just look in the woods, sporadically. What we all call the grid search. That is the absolute worst thing that you could do if you think at all that you're going to have a dog come in. If there's a possibility, if there's any doubt in your mind, and you never want to step directly on blood that you see, of course, but it's not so much that the blood that the dog needs is interdigital scent glands that deer is releasing. And so that's us as humans and as a dog, we cannot see that. That's only scent that wounded deer is producing as he's running. Majority of it comes out of their hooves, but as we all know, a deer has multiple scent glands on the nose and the head, and all those scents. Right. The harder that deer is hit, or the more, I guess you would say, the more pain that he's in, the more he produces.
Is that right? So a wounded deer, the interdigital, that's the gland right, between the hooves. They're going to release more scent, right? If they're
correct.
Wounded. Okay. Yep.
Correct. And so that dog, people say, well, I only had a drop or two of blood, and I've just looked and looked and looked and looked. Well, a lot of times I'll get these calls during deer season that have minimum blood. They're, the arrow had a pass through. They've got some blood on the arrow. It looks good, but there's no deer. They've looked at, 50, 100 yards, and there's nothing there. Well, a lot of times those are a gut shot deer. And if you think about it, there's not a whole lot of blood in the guts of a deer.
You'll find, a lot of times you'll find that clear fluid.
Correct.
I mean,
yes,
right. Uh-huh.
So that's to kind of just keep it simple is if a big old guy punched me in the gut, I'm hurting. I can't take a big punch to the stomach.
Mm-hmm.
But now if he punched me in the arm, well, sure, it may hurt, but I'm able to get away, or
mm-hmm.
It's not as bad as one to the stomach. So what happens? My arm may bruise, but I'm fine.
Uh-huh. Right.
Now I take a stomach punch. Well, you've hurt some organs in there. I'm not bleeding, and my stomach doesn't have a big bruise, but I'm hurt really bad, and I'm trying to get away. And that's what happens with the deer. So the dog comes in, and if you have walked all over that property that that you're hunting and you're looking, what you've done is stepped on all that scent, all that interdigital scent gland, and it's on the bottom of your feet. So the dog has got to decipher what is human and what is deer.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And that's where a really good, experienced dog, they still take, it's not as easy as if you didn't walk in there, but they can pick that up. They'll eventually realize, there's a lot of stuff that's scattered throughout. But once they push past that certain point, they line it back out and they're able to go forward with the track. But with that being said, the least amount of people in the area walking around, just kind of sporadically walking through the woods looking, you save so much more time if you would just stop, back out. Facebook, of course, today's time is the best place to look and locate a tracking dog, because a tracking dog can save you hours of searching and come in a matter of minutes and find blood, find that trail that the deer went down. And, of course, we all want to be successful and find the deer at the end of the trail.
That's
like
true.
I said, in minutes versus hours, and having 10 people in the woods looking.
So stay off of it if you have the chance to. If you got a dog coming in, don't mess up the scent up in front. Everybody, I've heard people say they've never pulled a bad shot. And I wish nobody'd ever pulled a bad shot. I bow hunted for a lot of years. I hunt with all kind of stuff as an old outdoor rider. I do, even air guns, big bore air guns. But I have wounded deer. Not many. I can recall with a bow probably 2. But I wait for slam dunk shots. I wait till they're within 25 yards, standing broadside. And to be honest with you, half of them have been eating corn at a feeder when I shot them. To be frank about it. But so what you do, and the skill that you and the dog. But I mean the fact that there is a way to recover a wounded game. That sinking feeling when you don't know, that's terrible. It is. We've all probably experienced it,
Absolutely. And I've lost a few deer throughout the years. And I've had my brothers lost a deer or two, and there's always, for me personally, when I go to pull that bow back or squeeze that trigger on an animal, I want, without a shadow of a doubt, to recover him. That animal means something to me.
Yes.
So to lose him and to leave him lay, or not to know, was it a bad shot? Did I just nick him? Did I, is he suffering? That's really drove me to get into this and get dogs that are able to recover and do things that a human's just not possible of doing.
Connor, let's take a quick break. Folks, there's so much to cover here. Let's have us a little break, and then we'll get back with Mr. Connor Crockett. We're going to talk some more trailing dogs. How about that? Folks, this is Luke. For about the past decade, I've been hunting editor for Airgun Hobbyist magazine. I think the only magazine devoted strictly to airgun shooting and hunting in the country. Well, in that length of time, I've learned quite a bit about big bore air guns and smaller calibers too. A spot to go to that if you're interested in air guns, you need to know about Pyramyd Air. The website is PYRAMYD, PyramydAir.com. They have anything and everything you need, from the guns themselves, the big bores or the smaller calibers, to the accessories. Just remember PyramydAir.com, and there's a number when you get on the website if you need to call and talk to somebody. give them a buzz, and they can fill you in on little details that you might need to know about shooting or hunting with big bore air guns. While you're on the website there, I'd like you to check out the big bore air gun that I've done a great deal of hunting with. It's the Seneca Dragon Claw, 50 caliber, pressures up to 3,000 psi, and it looks like a conventional rifle. Wooden stock. I think you'll like the appearance, and I know you'll like the performance. It shoots not only bullets, but also air bolts as well, tipped with a broadhead. Check it out. It's the Seneca Dragon Claw.
The snowflakes fall as winter comes, and time just seems to fly.
Friends, this segment is brought to us by CVA Muzzleloaders. In my opinion, the very best muzzleloaders in the world, the ones that I shoot. You can check them out online, cva.com. AGM Global Vision, maker of the Rattler and the Adder that I use. You can check them out online too, agmglobalvision.com. Kuby's Wild Game Processing and Kuby's Restaurant in Dallas. And VINEYARDMAX, maker of some awesome deer attractant and some very fine game feeders and fish feeders located down in Nacogdoches, Texas. Check them out at vineyardmax.net. Well, folks, we are back with Mr. Connor Crockett, and we're still talking. We've got a little more time in our show to talk about trailing up deer with a trained dog. Connor, I know we could spend hours on this topic, but when Boone, who is a well-trained deer trailing dog, an excellent dog, I've met Mr. Boone and seen him in action. How you go about training a dog? I guess you first look for one with the bloodline, but how do you go about it? I've got ideas, but they're probably not correct, you know?
Well, so there's several different methods. You know, and like I said, it kind of goes back to personal preference, but at the end of the day, it all kind of boils down to one, the dog has got to have the prey drive. You know, he's got to have the hunt, he's got to have the want to. But honestly, it's pretty simple. You know, you just introduce them to deer and deer only. It's my advice. You know, don't try and show them different animals and tell them no. You just show them one animal, which in this case would be deer. So take them to the deer camp. Someone shoots a deer, get them around that deer, you know, at a young age, 6 weeks, just as quick as you can get them. You have to introduce them into the deer. So, of course, that dog is learning so much more than what we can teach him on his first deer. Every smell that deer has, that dog is smelling it. So, you know, if the more deer you can put him around, dead deer, that you can have him around, the better. So you need blood, you need hide, and you need hooves off of deer. And that way, that kind of sets you up as far as making what we call a mock track. And you can start these at 6 weeks old if the puppy has the, you know, ability to, I guess, concentration, you know, to focus on the task at hand. Some don't. Some male dogs, you know, it may be months down the road before they really calm down and realize, hey, I'm here for, you know, a certain mission. Typically the males are more excited and hyper and high strung. Female dogs seem to pick on the things a little bit quicker. With all that being said, for me and Boone, it was deer hide, a little bit of blood. You know, as a young dog, there was some liver putting in, you know, and liver more as a treat, not so much using it for tracking, but just something kind of rewarding at the end of the track. And then we would kind of get off of so much blood and go more with the hooves. So I would go to my local processor, and I told him ahead of time, you know, hey, I'm going to come. I need to get some hooves this year for training my deer dog. That some of them will laugh, you know, and then when I started this, there was not a whole lot of people doing it. Of course, it had been out there, but a lot of guys in South Texas have done it for years. East Texas, it's kind of a newer ball game. So when you go ask for hooves, they kind of laugh at you. But explain to them what your situation is. And I would always ask, you know, if the deer's brought in and he's gutted, I would always ask him to look at the the entry and exit wound. Did that deer run 100 yards, or did he fall right there? Maybe even ask the hunter, have the processor ask the hunter, did he run? Did he fall? And you want the hooves where the deer ran 100 or so yards. That way you're getting that interdigital scent gland in the hooves already out. He stressed a little bit, and that's already out. And of course it's in there. You can get it out with a sharp knife, and it's actually a white paste is what it looks like. You can kind of dig that out, put it on the hoof. So we would do a little bit of deer hair, a little bit of blood, and then the hooves.
Would you take
stomping.
Would you take those things and just stick them in the dirt up ahead of a trail? I mean,
absolutely.
Okay, just like he was walking.
So we would get them. Yes, I would use a piece of PVC pipe and stick them over to the side. And I would wear rubber boots, try and block my scent as much as possible. Use the hooves, put some pressure in it. Drive it into the ground, and like always, you want to start simple, easy, and then progress from there. And make sure that dog realizes, hey, we're after one thing. So I get a lot of questions, or a lot of people ask the same question is, how does he know what deer he's after? How are we just running deer? So the answer to that is no. Now I would be lying to you if I told you he did not, what I call bump a live deer, a deer that he's not supposed to track, because most of the time we're 6, 8, 10 hours behind the hunter who shot the deer. So there's other deer that have come across that track. There's deer that are laying on that track. We get into thick areas where there's a lot of deer. So if he sees a deer move, his natural instinct is to go towards that deer. Now, where an experienced dog and a non-experienced dog, he knows to stop running the non-wounded deer because the scent is not there.
He can tell the scent, yeah.
Absolutely. He knows that deer is not what he's after. So he'll come back around and get back on, and he's tracking that interdigital scent gland of the wounded deer. And I'll put into an example. We were in a high fence, a lot of wildlife. We were pulling in, and there was zebra, there was whitetail, there was axis, all these deer as we were driving into the feeder, and I kept him on a lead to make sure we started on the right track. And the dog circled the feeder and went exactly where the deer went. Now, granted, 50 other deer went the opposite direction, but he took the track, and that's the guide that was there and the hunter who shot the deer. They were mind blown that he knew to go exactly where the wounded deer went.
That to me, that's amazing. It is. I mean,
and truly, and people will say, "Oh, well, it's not hard to find one in the high fence," and that's the most difficult track for a dog.
I can see that because there's so many animals here.
Exactly. So I stress, and there's a lot of guys that get into it. The dog has it. He's made me a better deer hunter and a better tracker. You have got to learn the dog. You have to learn to read his posture. You have to know when he's doing right and when he's doing wrong. And, you have to be able to correct him when he's doing wrong. If you let him get away with doing wrong too many times, well, you're back at square one.
He thinks it's right. Yeah.
Correct. Right. So you as the tracker you got to learn to read the sign. What does the blood look like? What is my dog doing? How's he reacting? And the hardest thing about this is everyone that we go on a track for, they think because they have blood that deer's dead or he's, a fatal shot and is going to die. And that's not the case.
Yeah. They're tough critters.
They're very, very tough animals. And it's funny, and it's, a lot of people don't believe it, but that dog will tell me in a matter of minutes whether we're going to recover that deer or not.
You can tell read the body language on him.
Absolutely.
Well,
absolutely.
Connor, I wish we've had this has been very interesting to me, and I know all of our friends listening. I want to get you back, and you do a lot of stuff, a lot of fun stuff in the outdoors. As someone that in East Texas, eastern part of Texas, and folks are listening to this on a podcast after all our great radio stations run it, but folks, we're talking about east of Dallas if you're from out of state. But leave a contact information. I know that you're going to be working in the East Texas area, right?
Correct. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
So the best way to contact me, of course, Facebook. Most people have Facebook, so it's just my name, Connor Crockett.
Uh-huh.
And then my cell phone number is 903-646-0570. So Facebook, a phone call, a text message, and even if it's out of my area, I've got several contacts to excellent guys that have excellent recovery dogs that would love to take the track. So even if you're not in East Texas and you need somebody, just reach out to me, and I promise you we'll get you in contact with somebody that can help you.
Well, Connor, thank you a lot, buddy. And I want to get you back. We're going to talk. We've got a whole different topic. We're going to talk some river fishing next time. How about that?
Yes, sir. Sounds good to me.
Folks, that about wraps our show up for this week. I've enjoyed being with you, and I hope you've had a good time, too. This segment was made possible by AGM Global Vision, maker of the Rattler and the Adder, two awesome thermal scopes that I use for all my night hunting. Check out AGM, all the products that they have there online, agmglobalvision.com. And, folks, we're also brought to you by the Choctaw Hunting Lodge up in southeast Oklahoma, located about, 45 minutes west of Hugo, Oklahoma, owned by the Choctaw Nation. It's about 45,000 acres of awesome mountain, country, hills, valleys, loaded with game. Lots of eastern turkey, and they do eastern turkey hunts if you're looking for a spot to hunt turkey in the spring. Also, I want to remind you about the Seneca 50 caliber Dragon Claw that shoots bullets and pellets. And by pellets, I'm talking about 200 and 210 grain lead, chunks of lead. It's a big bore air gun that I use. Check out the Seneca Dragon Claw there at PyramydAir.com.